my name is Rachel and I own Vikings and Goddesses Pie Company. We're here at our production kitchen in St. Paul on Marshall in the old Izzy space, and I'm going to teach you guys how to make pie dough. First things first, we use local flour from Bakersfield. If you're not using local flours, typically just use an AP flour. That's what I recommend to most people who don't have access to such local products that we have. So first things first, we're going to have our flour. We have a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt in the bowl, and then we have our butter. Our pie dough recipe is very simple. It's actually by weight, just a 3-to-1 ratio. So it's a 3 parts flour, 2 parts fat, 1 part liquid. So I've actually done the work here and already cut it up into little tiny bites right here, just because it's going to make it easier to incorporate it by hand. I prefer to incorporate all of our butter by hand and with a little bit of either a bench knife or a bowl scraper, just because I can incorporate it much faster and much easier than if I were to use a mixer or anything else for that matter. So I've tossed all of the butter in with the flour. It's all coated. And now what I like to do is imagine that you have to actually snap your fingers. And you're going to snap your butter into your flour. So I'm just going to keep kind of doing that motion until I notice that we're kind of at the P ratio or P size flour that we need. Still really important to use cold ingredients right from the fridge, just because you don't want your butter melting before it gets into the oven. At this point, I'm going to add our water, cold water. So we'll put in about half a cup of water. And this is when I grab my bowl scraper. So I'm just going to dump it out onto my station and keep mixing. So we have a little bit of flour dust at the bottom, but that's still pretty good. And you can see on top that we have butter, very visible butter pieces, but not so much that it's going to inhibit the structure of the crust, and that you're not going to get any leaks either. At this point, I like to cut it in half and then let it rest. You need to let the dough rest a little bit so that it doesn't shrink when you put it into the oven. I like to wrap it in plastic and then roll it out later. One thing that I like to do and make sure that I am prepared to rotate the dough, I make sure that there's enough flour underneath, and I only like to go in single strokes to start. We have our pie crust, and then in order to move it into a pie tin, I like to just fold it and get it all ready to go. All right, so we've rolled out the pie dough. I'm all ready to go with the shaping. I've got a little overhang, but I like to tuck it under just a little bit. I like to do is just a traditional crimp. Now, people think I'm crazy when I tell stories of how I used to learn how to do this. I always like to think of my little pincher hand eating my index finger as I'm going. And I just do a chomp, 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 chomp. And all right, and there we have it.